The mayor has asked me to reconvene the panel as there are now 3 vacancies on the Board of Education that need to be filled. I would like to call this first meeting of the 3rd iteration of the panel to order and note the presence of a quorum of the panel. In attendance, we have Sean Vereen, Vice Chair of the Educational Nominating Panel, Bonnie Camarda, Secretary of the Educational Nominating Panel, Peter Gonzalez, Ellen Madelman Kaplan, Darren Mangum, Maura McCarthy, Stephanie Nadoff, Ivy Olesh, Kimberly Pham, and Barbara Moore-Williams. Thank you all for joining us. So our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting on February 12th, 2020. I note that a set of minutes has been circulated. Each member of the panel has a copy of the minutes, and copies are available for anyone who is in attendance. Are there any questions, colleagues, on the minutes?
No.
There are no questions. I would like to recognize Sean Vereen for a motion.
Thank you. I move to approve the minutes of our meeting on February 12th, 2020.
Thank you. I recognize Bonnie Camarda.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you. All in favor of the approval of the minutes will signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes from our meeting on February 12th, 2020 are hereby approved. I do note that it was a pretty different world the last time we met. But we soldier on. Our second order of business concerns the core functions of the panel. The charter under section 12-207D requires the panel to invite city organizations and individuals to submit names of qualified people for consideration by the panel. For a motion on this issue, I recognize Sean Vereen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the chairman be authorized to take steps necessary for the panel to comply with section 12-207D of the Education Supplement to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, which requires the panel to invite business, civic, professional, labor, and other organizations, as well as individuals situated or resident within the city to submit for consideration by the panel the names of persons qualified to serve as members of the Board of Education.
Thank you. And I now recognize Darren Mangum.
Thank you. I second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is adopted. In furtherance of this motion, I note that on November 10th, 2020, the Mayor's Office of Education posted an application for the Board of Education on the city's website. Additionally, the Mayor's Office sent a press release on the same day that again highlighted this application. Any applications submitted online will be forwarded to the panel. Additionally, I request that the Mayor's Office of Education repost the application with notice that applications will be submitted to the panel. Thank you. Next, we'll turn to a series of presentations from the city and the Board of Education to help inform our decision-making process and to provide us some guidance as we embark on this process. To that end, I would like to briefly discuss the process going forward for the panel. Because our work is specifically to specifically discuss the appointment of prospective school board members, that work will be done in an executive session of this panel that will be held in the upcoming weeks. After reviewing prospective applicants, this panel will reconvene within 40 days from today to officially vote to recommend 9 individuals to the mayor for his consideration and possible appointment. I would now like to ask Otis Hackney, Chief Education Officer, to provide remarks on behalf of the mayor and present an overview of the duties and qualities of a Board of Education member. Mr. Hackney?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here as we look to bring on 3 new members to our local Board of Education. It's remarkable to think all that has happened since the nominating panel last convened in February 2020. We're all feeling the wear and tear of an unprecedented 9 months, the pandemic and subsequent economic recession, a contentious election season, civil unrest, and a time for racial reckoning. But there's a lot of hope out there. The future has promise, and our Philadelphia grit has shown through. Throughout this, I've been fortunate to be working with our mayor to continue his commitment to quality education for all. Despite economic challenges, our city continued our financial support of the School District of Philadelphia, launched PHL Connected, a public-private partnership to ensure high-speed internet access for all K-12 students. In the spring, we will see the start of the Octavius Cotto Scholarship, which will provide free college for first-time students at the Community College of Philadelphia. As we look to recover from this unprecedented economic plummet, we need to ensure that we are equitably ensuring that all Philadelphians have the educational opportunities to secure quality jobs. And your commitment and careful review of Board of Education applicants is the critical first step. We know the individuals selected by this panel and the mayor will need to lead our school district in challenging times as we look to recover. Things will be harder before they get better, but there will also be great opportunity for creativity and innovation as we look forward post-pandemic. Your service is appreciated, and I thank you all for joining us for this important process. I now turn things back over to nominating panel chair Wendell Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. Hackney. Next, I would like to ask Christina M. Hernandez, Assistant Secretary of the panel, to provide remarks on the responsibilities of the Educational Nominating Panel.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again so much for your participation. This process I know can be lengthy and oftentimes difficult, but I could not emphasize more how important this work is, particularly now during these challenging times. So as I'm sure most of you remember, but I will go over a few details about the role of the Educational Nominating Panel. The role of the nominating panel is to solicit names from the community at large, to review application materials and submissions, to interview potential candidates, and ultimately submit to the mayor at least 3 names for every open slot. In this case, for this iteration of the nominating panel, there are 3 open slots, so the panel must provide at least 9 candidates from which the mayor can then choose the 3 new members of the Board of Education. These selections will then be subject to council confirmation following the mayor making those names public. Now, pursuant to the city charter, you have 40 days from today's date to submit these names to the mayor. This final date, according to my rudimentary calculations, is Saturday, December 26th of this year. Obviously, we hope to be done with this work before this final date, so that the mayor can then have an opportunity to interview these nominees and go through the internal process of selection to ensure that we have those selections before the holidays and are able to communicate those selections up to City Council prior to the holidays. The holidays meaning the Christmas break. Next, once the mayor makes his selections, he will transmit those names to City Council for their confirmation via resolution, and we hope that City Council will then act expeditiously on those confirmations so that the school board can have a full 9-member board as soon as possible. As always, I'm available for any questions if you have them regarding the role of the nominating panel. I will be here to assist you in any way that I can moving forward, and I look forward to working with each of you.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And now, lastly, I would like to ask Board President Joyce Wilkerson to provide remarks on behalf of the board.
You have to unmute. Does she know we can't hear her?
Thank you. I'm Joyce Wilkerson. I am president of the Board of Education. I want to start by thanking each of you for your service on the nominating panel and for the opportunity you've given me and the other board members to serve on the Board of Education. Serving on the board has been humbling, it's difficult, but most of all, it's been a tremendous honor. And my hope today is to share with you a little bit about the work of the board, what it means to be a board member, and talk to you briefly about the path that we're staking out going forward. And with that, can we move to the next slide, please? To start, I want to describe the job of the board and what individual members do. As a school board, our role is to govern the district. We're here to set the vision for the district and then to monitor and see that the vision is met. We adopt policies for the district. We adopt and oversee the school district's budget, and it's our job to hire and oversee the work of the superintendent. We do this for the school district, but with charter schools, our role is different. Charter schools have their own boards to set vision and policies. We serve as the authorizer of the bricks and mortar charter schools, which means that pursuant to state law, we make decisions such as whether or not we're going to open a charter school and whether we're going to renew them when their charters expire. Doing all of this requires a great deal of work. We hold regular public meetings. We do a significant amount of reading, and we attend briefings, executive sessions, and community meetings. While the work is significant, it's also important to remember that there's much that we don't do. It's not our job to be involved in the day-to-day work of running the schools and teaching children. We have a district full of highly capable educators and administrators to do this work with distinction, and a superintendent to lead and manage this work. As a new board, we've been working hard to understand our role and make the many hours that we do spend on the job impactful for Philadelphia students. And next slide, please. As we start our second term, we're proud of the work we've done and the progress we've made from the days of the SRC. We've met with communities across the city. We've visited dozens of schools, implemented 3 committee structure to increase transparency and accessibility. We've held more than 60 action meetings and committee meetings. We've established, or we've worked with the City Council, Home Rule Charter established Parent and Community Advisory Council, and we've annually appointed 2 student board members to bring student voice to all that we do. Now, after a momentous 2 years, we believe we're at a decisive moment to propel positive change in our schools. And so we've developed a plan to drive that change and to deliver on the promise of local control. Our plan is simple because it starts with the most basic question: why do our schools exist? And the answer is that our schools exist to provide every student with the tools and experiences they need to reach their fullest potential. As I've shared, our role as a board is to focus on this vision and to hold the district accountable for fulfilling the purpose. A focus on student learning and student success must guide everything that we do. Board members have a duty to ensure that everything we do relates to our children achieving. Please move on to the next slide. Let's see. While this may seem self-evident, for nearly 20 years, our governing entity has not had that focus. The district has for too long been in system survival mode, contending with state control and fiscal instability. And while our district is making strides, such as increasing the number of high-performing schools, reducing the number of low-performing schools, and increasing the 4-year graduation rate, we need to look honestly at where we are and ask whether this is enough. No matter how you look at it, the answer is no. It's time to move past system survival mode and into a world where we're focused on the success of all of our students. Next slide. If we look at just 2 measures of achievement, student performance in math and students perform in reading, we can see, according to the national report card, that there's a clear need for improvement. To put our student performance in context, this slide and the next one compare our performance with those of 26 other large districts across the country. As you can see from this comparison of 4th grade math and reading achievement, and as you'll see on the next slide when looking at 8th grade math and achievement, Philadelphia is not keeping up with our peer districts. Please move to the next slide. The comparison of our district's performance in math and reading to student performance in some of the nation's other large districts is sobering, and it shows we're not doing what we need to do for our students. We want to help our students achieve, so student learning must be the critical focus of the board moving forward. In one evaluation by the Council of Great City Schools, they estimated the School Reform Commission spent only about 10% of its time ever talking about student achievement. The results you see here show that we need to be different. Please move to the next slide. We've been meeting with districts across the country in order to learn from their peers, our peers, and see what effective governing boards do to make change for their districts. And the answer is clear. Effective boards commit to a vision of high expectations for all students and set clear goals to make the vision a reality. They then spend the majority of their time focused on these goals and ensuring that the district is making progress. Our vision is clear. To make it a reality, we have developed 2 core sets of measurements. Please move on to the next slide. oops, back one. I'm sorry, I got out of sync. Our first are our goals. We're going back to the basics in adopting these goals. We want to know that our students are reading at or above the appropriate grade level and performing math at or above the appropriate grade level and graduating with the skills and the knowledge they need to be effective in college and career. In each of these three areas, we've developed clear student achievement goals that we'll be monitoring to ensure that they're met. Just as importantly, we've developed guardrails, or a set of non-negotiable conditions that must be met in each school in order to reach our goals. The board will be keenly focused on monitoring our progress to each of these goals and guardrails for the next 5 years, and the board's decisions and actions will be related to these goals and guardrails. Next slide, please. We're going to take a moment to focus a little bit on the guardrails. The goals are pretty self-evident. The guardrails in the next four slides show in detail the core conditions that we set that must be ensured by the district so that every child is learning in an environment that reflects community values. Next slide. The first is create welcoming and supportive schools. Guardrail 1 is ensuring welcoming and supportive schools with clean, safe environments, inclusive climates that offer students access to robust social, emotional, and mental health supports. And I again want to thank Penn. This Penn's going to give us some of the resources we need in order to have the kind of safe schools that we want for all of our kids. And so it was very timely and very much welcomed that the university made the commitment. Our second, next slide, our second guardrail is providing students with enriching and well-rounded student experiences with co-curricular activities such as arts and athletics integrated into their school experience. It's not enough just to be teaching math and reading. It is as important that the students learn with the kind of experiences supporting and aligned with their academic requirements. Next slide, please. Guardrail 3 ensures that we partner with parents and family members and welcome them into the child's school community. When we met with our advisory council members, this was something they were particularly focused on, and so we incorporated it into the set of guardrails that we proposed to adopt. Next guardrail. Our fourth guardrail acknowledges the systemic racism in our district is real and alive. We must work to dismantle the practices that result in different outcomes for our Black and brown students. We must focus on equity in everything that we do. Next slide. This focus on student success, these goals and guardrails will guide our work going forward. This means that we're going to see a real change in the structure of our board meetings and in the way the board goes about its work. While we'll continue to conduct the regular business of the district, we'll dedicate a significant amount of time at each meeting to reviewing progress towards our goals and guardrails. We adopt the goals and guardrails formally in December of the new year, and in the new year, you'll begin seeing the district implement plans to reach these goals, and the board will begin monitoring them. You'll hear us asking consistent questions about who, what, why, and how the data that the district brings us. This is going to be our tool for accountability. We expect to see that every student is succeeding. Please move to the next slide. We want to thank the many people who've helped us get to this point and want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to build this work. As you move forward with the search for new board members, we'll hope that you'll look for individuals who'll be committed to this work. The pandemic has been devastating, and we know that it's only going to get harder. We hope that you'll help us find individuals who are ready for a challenge and who have not be swayed from doing what is best for our students' education. And with that, I want to thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Joyce, Ms. Wilkerson, for that very strong presentation, but more importantly for your leadership in helping us get to where we need to go. Any questions or comments from the panel members? Thank you. So before we conclude, as a reminder, the panel is going to reconvene publicly to officially submit our list of potential candidates to the mayor. Any and all interested candidates are reminded again to submit their application as soon as possible. Before we conclude, I would like to note that in lieu of in-person comments provided by the public at this convening, we are receiving public comment through written testimony. These comments will be circulated to all panel members to review in concert with the review of applications. Additionally, the written comment portal will be open through December 3rd, 2020 to ensure that any member of the public who wishes to provide comments on our review of candidates will have that opportunity. So far, we have received 5 comments from members of the public. These individuals represent a wide range from retired school district employees, concerned parents, and community organizers. In summary, these individuals would like us to ensure that all applicants are invested in the future of Philadelphia students, families, and communities. Given the recent election, 2 comments made this, noted the strength of board members who understand the long-term importance of a focus on student voter engagement. We received comment noting the importance of literacy in libraries and schools, and of course, a consistent thread has been the strain of the global pandemic and virtual education on parents, families, and children as they try to balance the needs of all members of the household. I look forward to receiving additional comments in the future to help guide our important work. Does any member of the panel have any comments, questions, or concerns before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting. Look forward to working with all of you again to continue the progress that is so desperate for our city and helping our children flourish. So thank you all for your commitment, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.